Have you ever felt a presence in an empty room, a whisper in the silence? Daniel did, and his story will make you question every shadow you see. One quiet morning, a silver locket appeared on Daniel's kitchen table. It was a ghost from his past, a memory he thought was buried forever. Inside was a faded picture of him as a child, nestled safely in his mother's arms. He remembered placing this very locket in her coffin, a final goodbye. That night, clutching it tight, he whispered into the darkness, "I miss you, Mum." But when morning came, the locket was gone. A frantic search turned up nothing. It had simply vanished. Later, as he dressed, a glint of silver in the mirror caught his eye. The locket, it was hanging around his neck. He hadn't put it there. A cold knot of dread tightened in his stomach. This wasn't a memory. It was a warning. The fear had found him, and it was just the beginning. 2 weeks later, a storm raged outside, plunging the house into darkness. The familiar comfort of home was suddenly replaced by the acrid smell of burning wood. Daniel's heart pounded as he checked the fireplace. The ashes were cold, untouched. He turned, and a shape in the kitchen doorway made his blood run cold. It was her, his mother. Standing in the gloom, her nightgown was a tattered grey shroud, her hair soaked from a rain she could no longer feel. Her eyes, once windows to a loving soul, were now just black, empty holes. Danny, her voice was a low, trembling echo of what it once was. "Why did you leave me in the fire?" The words hit him like a physical blow. He staggered back, shaking his head. No, no, Mum, I didn't. You left me." The memory of that night, the night she died, crashed over him. The fire, the smoke, the sirens. The doctors had called it an accident, a tragic case of faulty wiring. But as he stared at her charred, ghostly reflection in the rain-streaked window, a terrible, suffocating doubt began to take root. Was it really an accident, or was there something far more sinister burning just beneath the surface of the past? From that night on, the house became a prison of whispers. The walls breathed his name, a constant rustling sound like dry leaves. The lights flickered, not randomly, but in a steady, rhythmic pulse that mimicked the heartbeat monitor from her final days in the hospital. He'd wake up to messages scrawled across the mirrors in a familiar, elegant script. Asterisk, "I'm still here." Asterisk sleep offered no escape. Every time he closed his eyes, she was there, standing at the foot of his bed. Her mouth moved without a sound, ash flaking from her pale skin and dissolving into the darkness. He had to get out. He threw himself at the front door, but the lock was jammed solid. He tried the back. The windows all sealed shut, as if the house itself was holding him captive. The phone line was dead, a dial tone replaced by an unnerving silence. The world outside was gone, and he was alone with her. It was in that moment of pure terror that he finally understood. His mother hadn't come back for a visit. She wasn't looking for company. She was looking for a replacement. The haunting escalated, twisting from sorrowful whispers to raw, desperate rage. One afternoon, he found the old family photo album lying open on the floor. Every picture of him had been violently scratched out, his face obliterated by angry, jagged lines. Only her image remained, staring out from the glossy pages. That night, he barricaded himself in the bedroom, shoving a heavy dresser against the door. But the scratching started. Not at the door, but from inside the walls. A frantic, scraping sound, like nails clawing through drywall, moving closer and closer. He covered his ears, but the sound was inside his head now. Then a single sharp crack split the air. A thin fissure appeared in the plaster above his bed. It spiderwebbed across the ceiling, and a fine grey dust began to fall, smelling of ash and old memories. He knew what was coming. The house was being remade in her image, and he was being erased. Daniel's days became a blur of exhaustion and terror. The smell of smoke was now a constant companion, clinging to his clothes and hair. He stopped looking in mirrors, afraid of the hollow-eyed reflection that might be staring back. One evening, desperate for any connection to the outside world, he found his father's old toolbox in the basement. He grabbed a crowbar, determined to pry his way to freedom. As he reached the top of the basement stairs, he heard music. A faint, tinny melody drifting from the living room. It was the music box his mother used to play for him as a child, a lullaby he hadn't heard in 20 years. He crept toward the sound, crowbar held like a weapon. The living room was bathed in an eerie, pale glow, and in the center of the room, the music box was playing on its own. Beside it, on the worn armchair where she used to sit, was a single, perfect white rose, her favorite, a peace offering, a trick. His mind screamed at him to run, but a flicker of hope, or perhaps just madness, made him take a step closer. As Daniel reached for the rose, the music box slammed shut, silencing the lullaby. The air grew frigid. The pale glow in the room intensified, coalescing into a form beside the armchair. It was his mother again, but different. The sorrow was gone, replaced by a cold, possessive fury. Her shadowy hand shot out, not touching him, but pointing toward the fireplace. The cold ashes within it began to glow with a malevolent red light. "You ran," she hissed, her voice no longer a whisper, but a grating accusation that clawed at his soul. "You heard the smoke alarm, and you ran. You left me to burn." The forgotten memory hit him with the force of an explosion. He had been home, a teenager, woken by the alarm, panicked and confused. He had run out the back door, thinking she was right behind him. He stood in the yard, screaming her name as the flames consumed the house. He hadn't abandoned her. He had been a scared kid. But in her tortured afterlife, that distinction didn't matter. Guilt and grief had become the chains that bound her to this place, and now she intended to bind him to it. The glowing embers in the fireplace swirled, forming a vortex of heat and shadow. She wasn't just haunting him, she was recreating her own personal hell, and she was inviting him in forever. There's a fine line between grief and madness, between a memory and a ghost. For Daniel, that line had been erased. He was trapped in a nightmare woven from love and resentment, a prisoner in the house where he grew up. What would you do? Could you fight a ghost fueled by your own guilt? Some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. Thank you so much for joining me on this terrifying journey. If you enjoy stories that crawl under your skin and stay there, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss the next descent into darkness. Until next time, stay safe and be careful what memories you dig up.